What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Episode 206, I believe, of the Inside Bassmaster Podcast. Ronnie Moore and Kyle Jessie with you as always, but I'm a little remote. You're in the same room you always are, Kyle. Just back to work on Monday, but I'm taking my day and I'm taking my daughter on some appointments and errands. So from the truck, we're gonna talk a little Lake Martin and also Lake Guntersville. We just finished up the first Bassmaster Elite at Lake Guntersville. Boy, it was a good event. It was a fun event. It was our first non-forward facing event with the new rules where it's basically a split schedule, 4 events without forward facing sonar, 5 that will have it based off the coin flip. And Hank Cherry took the title, 88 plus pounds. I was really thinking about my mid 90s weight prediction over here when it was like 75 pounds is leading early on day 4. I was like, we ain't gonna get close. But Hank Cherry ran it up and almost hit 90 pounds for 4 days and took the title there, his 5th bass victory. So, Kyle, some early reaction from you after having I don't know, about 16 hours to marinate on it.
Yeah, I mean, incredibly impressive. I mean, you just think about what he could have done had he not struggled as much as he did on day one. I mean, he said it a handful of times on stage that he thought day one was going to cost him, but obviously when you catch the weight he did on the final day, it kind of makes up for your lack of success on day one. Obviously the way he caught him, I think, is the biggest story that you could see throughout the tournament. I mean, you hear I don't even remember where I heard the report first from that that's how he was catching them, but it was one of those deals where it's like, oh, maybe he's catching a few on it. Like, that's still pretty awesome. And then you watch on the last day and you're like, no, he's catching like all of them on it. Like, I'm sure he still caught some on a jerkbait throughout the week, but I mean, the amount of bites he was getting on that thing, just like it gave you the feeling of exactly what happened was that those fish had not seen that in a really long time. And if they had, it was a smaller version and a crappie grub. I mean, it was like those fish had never seen it, and the ones that are alive currently probably haven't. I mean, it's been that long since that has been a prominent player in bass fishing. So, awesome job. I think the one thing that I kept thinking throughout the entire week was that you and I think, neglected him in Bucket E last week more than we probably should. He was the highest player percentage last week in Bucket E at 24.8%. So it's not like he wasn't getting any love, but I just, as the tournament played on, I was like, what was I thinking? Like, and then beyond that, the other thing that really stood out was the amount of guys in the top 10. We talked about on live yesterday and the day before that, like, this tournament was one of those from a fantasy standpoint, like you just picked on history and you'd have been in good shape. Like if you just picked strictly based on guys that have had success there in the past, for the most part, outside of the exception of a few, um, you'd have been in really good shape. I mean, Hank Cherry, Stetson Blaylock, Wes Logan,
Jamie
Jamie Hartman.
Hartman,
I mean, it was incredible. The
Justin
guys that
Atkins. He doesn't
Hoop
have
all
much
had a good
elite
tournament.
history there, but
Yeah,
Justin
yeah.
Atkins in general there.
But I mean, overall, just a really awesome tournament. Was really happy to see Hank win. Obviously got emotional there, and you can tell how much it meant to him. That's always special. And congrats to Hank, man. It was an awesome way to start the 2026 Bassmaster Elite Series.
I sent Atkins, trying to find the screenshot of my phone. Maybe I deleted it just for space. But I had a Facebook memory of 9 or 10 years ago. I think it might have said 10, but I felt like it said 9 years ago that he got his professional fishing start with the FLW Tour at Guntersville, and I just texted him a screenshot of it, and he just hearted it because it's the same week. Get off to a great start there. So kudos to Atkins. We have 17 elite pros from Alabama or living in Alabama. 3 of them make the top 10, and none of them would call Guntersville their home lake. And so all the actual home lake Guntersville guys somewhat struggled. The only one who would probably call Guntersville his home that made the cut was Andrew Loberg. We only had 4 out of 17 make the cut. 3 ended up making the final day. Welcher and Logan have just had a track record at Guntersville by doing a little different. Uh, if you are under a rock and listening to this podcast going into Lake Martin and you're wondering what the bait that Kyle is referencing, because he's describing it but didn't actually say it, it's an 1/8 ounce jig head with a chartreuse curly tail grub. And Hank said that that's something they do in the Carolinas and at Norman, especially this time of the year when it's cold. I know now this is something that I didn't mention on live, but like I know throwing an A rig with 5 grubs on it is like a legit deal. But single swim baiting it with a grub basically not something that I would have. I mean, I would have if you had to keep going down the list of techniques, and we got an encyclopedia of bass fishing basics out. I would have said a Carolina rig's going to win Guntersville before a curly tail grub on a jig head swimming in the water column. Especially with no forward facing. I could see a grub winning on a jig head, like, up and down or seeing the fish swimming after it, but just using it in an essence like a single swim bait or like a bladed jig, um, never would have saw that coming. And we saw Hank Cherry day one throwing a jerk bait, cranking it like a speed trap, and then um throwing a bladed jig. And so those are the baits that you expect to factor. And then when you see him struggle somewhat, 16 pounds and change on day one, 64th place, then you see him start to like get better I said, which one did he lean on more? Did he start cranking more? Did he start jerk baiting more? Did he start throwing a bladed jig more? But no, the jerk bait ended up leading to a grub for him. Huge win for him, his 5th bass title. He's got 2 classics, won an open at Smith Lake. He won the All-Star Week in Michigan, and then he won and now an Elite Series event. He's also Rookie of the Year. So 6 bass accolades, 5 bass victories, and 3 of the bass victories in the state of Alabama. So Hank's done well in Guntersville twice for wins. Also the Open at Smith Lake. So kudos to Hank Cherry there. Hey, Colin Cowherd does this segment if you're a Fox Sports fan and you know Colin Cowherd's segments, where Colin was right and where Colin was wrong. Well, I already have I said I'm going into my 10th year of marriage, Kyle. So I'm a seasoned pro at knowing when I was wrong and saying sorry, my bad, and like acknowledging that. And so during the event, I said I was wrong a couple times. When I described the Jamie Hartman pick when we were going between Kufal and Hartman in TH Marine Pick'em, I was being honest. We're always trying to make things positive here. But when you're talking about guys like, other than I'm picking him because I think he's going to catch him. No, I'm picking him because I think he's going to catch him. No, I'm picking him because I think he's going to catch him. And for some reason, we got to differentiate the level of catching him. And sometimes it's not that we think this guy's going to catch him real good. It's just that we don't think this guy's going to catch him great. And I did not think Jamie Hartman, with the way I described it, was looking at the leaderboards the last few years of Bassmaster tournaments. I do not remember a time where his name jumped off the leaderboard and I was like, dang, Jamie Hartman's catching him this week. It's just been a ho hum, 40th to 75th, somewhere in there, just kind of maintaining, getting by. And obviously, a lot of stuff happens in life, rule changes, right? I mean, he came into the Elite Series on fire. There wasn't a no info rule, right? Guy from New York catching him at Toledo, catching him here, catching him there, no info rule, whatever. And then the no info rule is instated and his success isn't as high. And then on the back of the no info rule, it's forward facing comes in really heavy, not necessarily his style. And so it's hard to differentiate what has made an impact. And so catching him at Guntersville was awesome for Jamie Hartman. New start, fresh sponsors, definitely a different boat brand. And a top 5 finish, 4th place for him. So where I was wrong was thinking that Jamie Hartman from past years was going to bleed into this year. Not the case. Great start for him. So I'll own that one. Uh,
There's so many
full
factors that go
clarity
into that too. It's not to say that any of those things were the sole reasons as to why he had not been having as much success, but
for sure. But you add
it
all of them
could certainly
together.
be a
Yeah.
combination of
Yeah.
all. Yeah, sure.
And it was
Uh,
more so that Kufal was so giddy that he made a Facebook video of him taking his electronics off. So I was like, man, at least he's going to be starting the year positive, unlike the last few years where he's been uh, not. We'll just say not. We'll just say not. But yeah,
Not a
any other
fan of
thoughts
forward
about
facing
Guntersville,
stuff.
man? I think Stetson, such a good angler, great start. He's really vibing with Guntersville this time of the year too. Matt Robertson, always good when he's catching them, especially when he's doing something he's familiar with. Like St. Clair was fine that he was in the top 10, like he was doing good, but like spinning rod out in the middle of nowhere, like didn't seem as fun of a Matt Robertson. Seeing him on Tennessee River bars, worming a jerk bait the way he was, like watching, I mean, rod high and not even like jerk, like not that. It was just literally rod high and he was going, keeping it above the grass, slow little pops, not even jerks. He's making a 50-foot cast, 40-foot cast, not even a bomb cast because he'd get it too deep into the grass. So just some really good awareness by him, able to keep the train on the tracks when he had people in his area on day two after being fourth to start the tournament. Could have easily, Matt Robertson the last few years could have easily just dog cussed him and then let it mess him up the rest of the week, and it didn't. He stayed in the zone and actually was really good on that final day.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that was one of the things overall that was super impressive about the tournament was just you going through the things you just did is the fact that there was a lot of diversity as far as baits and what guys were doing. You had guys fishing, plenty of guys fishing over submerged grass, of course. You had the pad stems playing, you saw Hunter Shryock do that, Brandon Card on the last day. But as far as like baits are concerned, like I don't think it's unbelievable to say that, or like unrealistic to say this. Like if forward facing sonar was in that tournament, like we'd see a lot more minnows. I'm sure we'd still see jerk baits. We'd still see some of the same stuff. But like when it comes to the top lures gallery that's out right now, like you'd probably see way more minnows and that style of fishing than what we had. I mean, you had shallow running crankbaits, like DT6 style baits. You had vibrating jigs, lipless crankbaits, jerk baits, obviously the grub being such a unique deal in itself. Like there were so many different baits that factored. So when you were watching on live, you were like, you'd go from one guy, you'd go to Atkins who was shallow cranking, you'd go to Wes Logan who was, throwing a vibrating jig, you'd go to Brandon Card who's doing the same thing just in different areas. To Dakota Ebear also fishing those pad stems. Like there was just a lot of diversity, which typically you would think in a tournament where the weather was what it was and the conditions were, just as bad as you could basically imagine, that you'd see a lot of guys doing the same exact stuff. But from a viewer standpoint, I thought it was super fun to watch. Caught them really good all day, the last 2 days on live. But I mean, again, just a really good way to start the Elite Series season.
Yeah, and we were talking about it at the end of the show on the final day of like if forward facing was in there. I just don't know. People would have found it, but I just didn't. I don't think that the fish were in big creek ditches or out floating, over a bunch of water nearly as much. And so we would have seen it. And I think that those areas off the Miracle Mile, we would have, they're still going to be 6 feet and less for a lot of these anglers. And so I think we would have seen them using it, but able to pinpoint where those shallow groups were and be able to attack them with some of those other baits, winding a plug on a grass line and doing it. I just wonder, I mean, people are really getting good at throwing
I mean,
minnows
you can't.
shallow, but like, I still think we would have seen bait casters in play and other baits. I think where would have really helped guys having it was in the all reds, honeycomb, like that region of the lake, that south end where we didn't see a ton of populated boats, but the ones that were in there were in the top of our leaderboard. But yeah,
I
that
mean,
Miracle Mile
but you
stretch was
can't.
where everybody was.
You can't. I agree with you. I still think we'd have seen a lot of the same stuff play for sure. But you can't definitively say that there weren't fish out there floating because nobody was going to go out there and try that. I want to say nobody. I'm sure people tried it through practice, but you're so much more inefficient trying to do that
For
without
sure.
forward-facing sonar that like I don't know that we can say definitively that there weren't fish out there doing that. Like, um, I talked to some guys that were on the water that had forward-facing sonar, not anglers, of course, like just guys that were out there watching or whatever, and they seem to still see some out further than
Yeah.
the guys were fishing. So it's not to say there wouldn't have been any of that. Like when you're at Guntersville, you're always going to see a lot of the same baits that we saw play and guys fishing the same general stuff. But it would have at least been a factor to some degree. I'm certain of
Yeah.
that.
that was the biggest confusing thing for me was, we had a professional event there 3 weeks prior, and fish were getting grouped up shallow. And then the weather hit and it kind of broke them up and they kind of formed, the groups kind of formed in stages day by day, but they weren't just grouped up. And so um I was interested to see where they went. Like they're not going to go dump off in the Miracle Mile. They're not dumping off in the main river channel. Like the current's too swift early in practice. Too much cold water churning down there. That shallow side of the Miracle Mile, the east side of it, really occupied a lot of people, and rightfully so. And so my biggest confusing takeaway was, man, North Saudi, Spring Creek, Browns Creek, South Saudi, Town Creek, Seabolt, like I mean, it fished all over the place, but everything was so main drag, main river channel based that we really didn't get to mention a bunch of areas at Guntersville, even though we saw them stretched 70 miles end to end. It was really, the top two guys are in all reds region. Honeycomb factored for Hartman. You got the main drag just below takeoff where like Matt Robertson was, and Tucker Smith and Trey McKinney and some of those guys in the tournament. And then you've got the just above takeoff on the Miracle Mile where you've got the Johnstons, Cooper Gallant, Brandon Card, Wes Logan, and then you had farther up, but it was all main drag based. I never saw a fish. If we could have put this bet on Kalshi or something, whatever they're promoting these days, would we see over 4 days of an elite at Guntersville? Would we go 4 days without seeing a fish caught on a bridge? Heck no, would have been the answer. I'll take the yes. I'll take the over. Over one bass caught for sure. Never saw a single cast at a bridge unless we're counting Wes Logan's that bridge, but that's not a causeway rip rap bridge that we know at Guntersville. That's a kind of a trestle type deal, not the same. Yes, it is a bridge, but it is not the bridges that have won every Guntersville event since mankind. So that was the shocking thing to me. A
Yeah,
little.
there were definitely some shocking aspects to it. I mean, I think that all of it. I mean, you saw some of those aerial shots where those guys were fishing, and you could basically see the bottom from how shallow those fish were sitting.
We saw one bite a bladed jig.
I mean, it's
Like
just crazy to think that that's this like that day one of practice, the water was in the 30s and it was 17 degrees, and those fish were still that shallow. And I know a lot of the conditions were based on, a lot of the bites were based on the condition, I guess what I mean. Like we saw the pad stems and the really shallow stuff start playing when the sun got up and it started warming up some, but it was just like I don't know, it's just crazy. Like you wouldn't go to a lot of lakes. Like Bill Lowen talked about this on live. Like there's always going to be a population of bass shallow. Sure, I 100% agree with that. But I also think that there's so many lakes across the country. When you get faced with the conditions they did, you're not just going and fishing, the shallowest stuff possible, or not possible, but some of the stuff that's that shallow, and you're gonna just immediately find success. Like there's plenty of lakes in the country where like you're just not gonna see that. So to see that on live all week long, and not so much like the submerged grass deal. I mean, that tends to be a deal there, like 365. But some of the really shallow stuff was just like, this is kind of crazy to watch because you just expected like that mid-range to, whatever depth grass would be the deal based on the guys I talked to in practice. But obviously it was a huge player, but the really shallow stuff I thought was a little surprising, but not surprising in a bad way, surprising in a like, heck yeah, this is awesome way.
Yes, for sure. So to recap it real quick, the top five rundown from the tournament. Hank Cherry, your champion, 88 pounds, 11 ounces. Stetson Blaylock, second with 86.14. Both of those guys generally in the all reds region of Guntersville, south end of the lake. Matt Robertson, 85.13. Jamie Harmon, 85.11. Fourth place, Wes Logan, 82.7. He maintains basically every elite he has fished here is a top five, a second, a fourth, and a fifth. Um, And then we had Justin Atkins, 80 pounds, 13 ounces. Brandon Card, Kyle Welcher, Trey McKinney, and Dakota Ebert were your top 10. So kudos to all those anglers getting it done. Brandon Card's got a great track record here for the most part. At least class, when I say here, it's not just Guntersville in general, but the classic in 2020 he had here lines up weather-wise, and his success was the same. Um, Trey McKinney was kind of the, if you want to say it, the young gun scoper that rose to the top of the pack when everyone said that they would struggle. He still made it. One thing I want to touch on with that is the beginning of every season when we start in Florida, it is always veterans near the top most of the time, anyways. Right? Like Bill Lowen won last year, had a lot of old school guys doing well, um, canal fishing, things like that. Then you've got the guys who are sight fishing. Most of the time, that lends itself to being a veteran who's got a lot of tangible tournament time sight fishing. And then obviously, there's some scope tactics that worked out for those guys at St. John's. So I wasn't super shock and awe that it wasn't full of young guys, but to discount, an Atkins and a Welcher and a Trey and a Dakota and a Stetson. Stetson's got two kids. He's not super young. Wes Logan, I didn't mention him, but he's not really a scoper. But like Stetson's not really young, but he has always gone with the trends and been able to survive throughout his career. So I just thought that don't jump the gun on a one sample size that the young guys are going to struggle in the non-forward facing events. You got to give it more than 2 days of competition to
I
see
think
that. So yeah.
yeah, 100%. I think depending on what your stance is on forward facing sonar, you could make an argument for both. Like
Yes.
there were guys
You give it
that,
time, you jump the gun. Yeah, whatever
yeah,
proves your point.
there's guys that like you said that you would, most people would label as scopers that did well and made the cut and had great finishes without it. But there was also guys outside of the cut that were, calling for no forward facing sonar that didn't have a lot of success. So, like you said, I don't know that you can really make too much of that now. It's not like you saw a top 10 of like nothing but guys under 25, but
Yeah.
you also saw guys inside the top 10 that were, really good with forward facing sonar. So,
And we had
I don't
eight
know that you
elite
can really
wins.
pull too much from it, to be honest, but
We had
that's fine.
8 elite wins, two classic victories, uh, two or three rookie of the years in AOY. And then obviously none of those are even Dakota Ebert stats from other tours. But that's what we had. It was a very good top 10. Okay,
100%.
Kyle, let's get into Lake Martin. Back-to-back events to start the season. We're always doing this, and last time it was St. John's, Okeechobee. This time it's Guntersville and Lake Martin. Different train of thought, not only with style of fishery, but also this tournament will be forward-facing sonar. None for Guntersville, yes for Lake Martin. Um, what are your thoughts on that? The weather, I felt, um, if they were flip-flopped and we had an ultra cold forward-facing event at Martin versus a warming trend Guntersville no forward-facing, like if these two events were flipped, it was great last week. Like it was great. And it's gonna be great this week. But to get the best of both fisheries, man, if we almost flipped them, it could be gangbusters either way. But Martin, I think now with it warming some, will have a two-pronged approach. We're gonna see guys be able to survive shallow and some guys survive with just offshore groups.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think the point you made about if you were to flip flop them, like
Man,
it could have worked out. That I firmly with you on
we
that one.
probably see one get caught off the bed in the back of Roseberry
At
this
this
week.
point, I wouldn't have been surprised. Like it was just a weird thing, like that tournament, even as is with the cold temperatures and cold water temperatures. But anyways, Lake Martin. My first thought is even when I saw it on the schedule, my first thought was it is super bizarre. I live like less than an hour away from the lake, and I fished there twice, two times. So far from an expert, I'm very curious to see how it plays out. Um, the one thing that's always drawn me to Lake Martin is when I pass over it on 280 to go to Florida or go anywhere east. I always think to myself, like, gosh, I don't know why I don't fish there more because it looks like at a lot of places on the lake, it looks just like a White River lake. So it's like I really probably would like it, and it's full of fish. It's not a place that like has ever been labeled as a place that's hard to catch fish. I mean, there's a ton of keeper sized bass in that lake, a lot of spotted bass. But like you said, the warming trend I think will help the guys that want to target the largemouth shallow. But I think the one thing that we've seen in the past there and kind of gathered just from talking to people is that that's obviously going to be far less consistent than the spotted bass bite. The live scope bite, I think, will be the more consistent of the two. But I do think, to your point, you said two-prong approach. That's kind of the idea I'm keeping in my mind is that a guy that's able to catch a solid limit of fish, offshore with your forward-facing sonar, and then be able to slide up shallow and try to catch a big one on a dock, like we saw Cliff Prince the last time we were there, what he caught like two 6-pounders off the same boat dock or
20
something,
pounds day one or whatever. Yeah.
crazy. So that they live there. There's big largemouth, but it's not like doing that over the course of 4 days exclusively is going to be the most consistent. Now, somebody,
And it's the other way around. Sometimes some guys like might leave the boat ramp in Alex City and live shallow, even though it's the coldest part of the day. It's still the best bite window most lakes experience is
sure,
that first hour or two.
sure,
We may see guys go
same at
out looking
Guntersville.
for a largemouth bite early and catch two or three of them, knowing that at noon, if it's sunny or cloudy, windy or not, hot or cold, I can catch some off points and groups of spotted bass to fill my limit. And so being able to wind a flat side or a bladed jig or skip a dock that's in the water, that might be the first 2 hours of the day type of deal too. And so we could see the two-pronged approach, but when you choose to do them is also another variable.
Yeah, and that's definitely a possibility as well. But I do think a lot of guys think in the mindset of like there's a lot of comfort in going and doing something
Yeah, get
when
a
you have
limit
a limit in the boat, like
for
when you've
sure.
already got a cushion to work off of. But
If
I
and
think
if it is easy in practice to catch fish like spotted bass, then we may see guys just be relaxed, more relaxed in general, knowing that they have like, oh man, I can go catch 9 pounds. That's not great, but I can go catch 9 pounds whenever I want and have a
yeah,
floor of
yeah,
that. Because Lake Martin's not going to astound us with weight. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to see some cool things. We're going to have some big fish catches, lots of fish catches, but
tons.
notoriously, it's never been more than really 15 pounds a day at its best. And those were 3 day tournaments for some of those. So that 11 to 13, I think I've got 14 and a half a day just because I like the way the weather's trending. I think I have 14 and a half a day to win. So I think it's what is that? 14 is 48 pounds or no. Wait, hold on. I have like 13 a day, 13 and change a day. I have like 52 pounds for 4 days, 13 pounds a day. Um,
I think that's about what I've got as well.
yeah, and so that's where I'm thinking about. Um, So yeah, let's just jump into fantasy fishing unless you got some other tidbits about Martin. But I think that a lot less people call Martin their home. There are a few Auburn anglers who that is the closest lake to their school, but when they were in school. But like you said, you haven't fished there a ton because you're only an hour away with 9 other lakes that are an hour from
I
where
gotta
you go.
drive. I
You could
gotta
go
drive right
anywhere.
over the. I gotta drive right over the Coosa River to go to Lake Martin. So that's why I fish the Coosa River so much more often. And I don't think that's like a. I don't think that's an uncommon thing. I mean, you look at guys even like Will Davis. For instance, like he's such a hammer on the Coosa River,
Yeah,
but where
David
he's at in
Gaston.
Sylacauga, yeah,
Why are
David
you
Gaston,
leaving?
same way.
Yeah.
They're not far from Lake Martin at all. But I mean, when you have the choice just to go fun fish one or the other, the higher end spotted bass, big weights are going to be the Coosa River 100%. But also, like, I look at a lake like Martin, and we will get into fantasy right after this, but I do view it as a really good tournament lake. So like we always talk about like Hartwell, a lot of those lakes in South Carolina, the blueback herring style lakes as good tournament lakes because it gives you variety to do different things. I do view it as a really interesting place to watch a tournament because I think we'll see exactly what we were talking about is, guys have success going through a lot of numbers of spotted bass and just getting up to that right weight. I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of like small culls, like that's just going to be kind of name of the game with some of those spotted bass guys. But
We
I
may
do
see it. We
think
may
that
see
like,
like a 4 pound, 5 pound spot at some point because
sure,
they're still, it's a blueback herring lake. They've kind of taken over for the deeper fish because the threadfin can't live that deep or they get a little bit more shocked than bluebacks are. Bluebacks can handle that depth and cold. And so in the wintertime, these fish are feasting on blueback herring and the largemouth have to wait for the bluegill and the threadfin to look alive, to go catch them.
but the alternative to that is like it's going to be close weights. Like we know that almost inevitably. Like it's going to come down to the last day 100%. Like I don't see there being a way, which I've been wrong plenty of times, that somebody's just going to run away with it unless they find something that's just completely off the wall that gets, a different caliber fish altogether than the rest of the field. But let's say it plays out the way I think it will, and it'll be super close. Like one of those guys catches a, 4 to 6 pound largemouth at any given time, and it changes the whole complexity of the tournament. Like I think that's awesome. I think that adds such a unique dynamic to this tournament. So
And you may
you can
see
say all the
scope.
things you want about like the lack of weight, but like it's still going to be a really fun tournament, like to watch a Elite Series tournament.
Yeah, when you're seeing Guntersville and somebody you're waiting for someone to make a good catch and they catch a 4 pounder, you're like, that's okay.
Right.
You're waiting for a
Yeah,
7 pounder and you're like,
that's what it came
but
down to.
here a 4 pounder is going to be massive. And so we may not just see like spinning rods way offshore scope. You may see those into the docks, brush piles scope, with a jig. And you got it in 6 to 10 feet of water and you're seeing structure and catching fish on it that way. Um, Excited to see this tournament play out. Let's make some fantasy picks, all right? Let me pull my team up for Rapala Bassmaster Fantasy Fishing. Full transparency. I hope none of you listen to my team for Guntersville because I am down at 22.7%. Holy smokes, Kyle. I mean, it couldn't have got much worse. I had Jordan Lee, 83rd. I had Sam Hangy, 92nd. Kenta, 76th. And Kenta moved up to 76th. It was worse than that. And then I had Brian Schmidt started the week in third and finished 42nd. Oh, 4 fish on day 3 is a killer. But the only guy who got better every day with multiple days other than just the first two is John Garrett, 73rd to 27th to 23rd. So he was my top 25 guy. Jordan Lee goes from 42nd to 83rd with 3 fish for 8 pounds on the G pond. Yeesh.
Yeah, I don't think we're alone in that, and full transparency on my end as well. I didn't do worth crap either. It was really bad. I'm
You
really
could
bad in
add
all
our
games,
percentages together, Kyle, and we're lower by 30% than where we normally are on our own. I mean,
100%.
golly, I
I
think
don't
we equal 50 together.
I don't think we're alone on that either. Like obviously people had success. Like that's just the way fantasy fishing works. But like you made like some sound picks in this tournament and it completely came back to bite you. Like that's just the way it worked. Um, you
Everything
know,
sounds good on paper until you turn it into your teacher and you realize you were studying for the wrong class. Like,
yeah, 100%. I was at 27.3%, not good at all. Uh, Drain the lake, not very good. I mean, we really need to bounce back
hey,
here. We
what's
need
good
a
is that
dad.
me and you are neck and neck. So this is going to keep the show fun all year. If we just consistently stay within 5% of each.
We're not competing against the masses. We're just competing against each other
There
at this.
are 1,300 people in Beat Ronnie Moore, and I am 1,100th, Kyle. Oh my God.
Pretty
Just
tough.
imagine how bad those 200 people are that are below me.
Need to change the name to Who Can't Beat Ronnie Moore.
Yeah. Uh, I think the motto is like many try, few succeed. And I'll be like a lot of try and many
Most
don't
succeed.
fail. Yeah, most succeed. There you go. All right. Lake Martin, Rapala Bassmaster Fantasy Fishing. Bucket A, I said this on camera that I think Stetson or Kyle Welcher will be our AOI leader after Martin. So I'm going Welcher, Kyle Welcher, Bucket A. Uh, it says Valley, Alabama, and Opelika has what it's been. Not far from the Georgia border, not far from that general region of Lake Martin, um, and the Coosa and Tallapoosa. And so I feel comfortable with Kyle Welcher, especially toeing the line of this is going to be a crankbait, jerkbait, power fishing game. And also it could be finesse forward facing. I'm cool with riding Kyle Welcher to try to toe that line.
I'm with you. He was actually my solid secondary pick in my fantasy column that I just wrote, just published. I think that's a great pick. Definitely feels like a kind of guy that could sneak in a big largemouth or two a day, like make that deal work. but I am going with Dakota Ebear. When Dakota Ebear made the Elite Series, I think that everybody was pretty much on the same page of thinking, uh, dude's going to come over here and be a star. And after a tough event or tough start to last year, like he obviously wrote the ship late in the year,
Danikin in the
started
Classic.
started the year off incredibly strong, top 10 at Lake Guntersville. Um, I just think this sets up well for him. I think he's going to find his groove. I don't think he's ever going to look back. I mean, obviously everybody has bad tournaments, so it's going to happen. But I think Dakota Ebear is going to be the Dakota Ebear that we all expected to see for the rest of his Elite Series career. I was a little surprised to see just 4.1%. And I only say that too because if you were going to base your pick on history alone, he finished third at the Open at Lake Martin. Granted, when I reference that, I do understand that it was different time of the year and
He
everything,
catches him on a plopper this week. I'm gonna lose my mind, Kyle.
but well, Ronnie, I mean, we'd have made
Early
fun
buzz bait bite, baby. Let's go.
at Lake Guntersville. We'd have also just, we probably not probably. We definitely wrote off a lot of guys that had success there in the past because it was different times of the year and it was this and that and whatever. It played there. I'm not going to say it's going to play at Lake Martin, but if you're out there and you're playing and you want to base it off of history, who am I to tell you not to? Because at Lake Guntersville, it certainly was the deal. But I'm going Dakota Ebear. Ronnie, I'll kick us off in
I
bucket
just
B.
I do need you to know there's never been more cars pass by where I'm sitting every day, every week that I come here until today. And I've got the window down so I don't sweat to death. And there's been 900 cars go by this. I don't know why.
The good news is I actually can't hear him, so I don't think it's going to be a. I
Oh,
don't think.
good. I'm just budget trucks. Somebody's moving. I mean, go ahead. Bucket
Yeah.
B. So we got Kyle Welcher and we got Dakota Ebear and Trey McKinney has 51% of the votes in bucket A. Moving on to
Yeah,
bucket B.
and that's perfectly fine. I think he's going to catch him, but I think if you've paid attention to Ronnie and I's fantasy fishing picks, just know we don't always just go with who's the highest percentage pick. We go out there a little bit, and sometimes that costs us, sometimes it doesn't. Trey McKinney will probably catch him, but
Yeah, for sure.
we're going elsewhere. Bucket B. As I was looking at Bucket B, I noticed one thing to be true is that it is absolutely chock full of spotted bass hammers. Guys you would really consider spotted bass experts. Um, Paul Marks, Cody
Caleb
Meyer,
Hudson,
yeah, look, Caleb Hudson. Like I think there's a lot of really good picks in here, but
Taku
I am
Edo.
going with Bryant Smith
Oh,
in
Brian
Bucket B.
Smith's one is just a West
Also,
Coast spotted bass.
also a very, very good spotted bass angler. This to me is just a kind of I wouldn't say a risky pick, just a lower percentage pick. I think one going to make a calculated risk here. Guys that are taking up a ton of the percentage. I didn't even mention Taku. Taku being as maybe the biggest spotted bass expert of all of them, just based on tournament success. But Taku's taking up a lot of the percentage, 31.2 right now. Paul Marks 19.9, Cody Meyer 4.7, Cooper Gallant another good pick 11.2, but for me, Brian Smith on a spotted bass fishery that has, all the right ingredients for him to succeed at 1.2 player percentage, well 1.3 now rather. I think that is
If you picked him, you bumped him up.
I think that's a good calculated risk there. I'm going Brian Smith in bucket B.
Bryant Smith was my second choice. I really thought about picking him, but then I saw Jacob Poroznik and I couldn't help think of early season ditch fishing, covering some water, some crankbaits, underspins, maybe some brush pile type stuff. I feel confident in Jacob Poroznik and in this style of fishing. Plus these close weight tournaments. Uh he's one that I could see just living on spotted bass, not even trying to do largemouth, but is such a good largemouth angler as well. You go catch one a day that you could be in it as well. We may see more largemouth show up. There may be some fatter spotted bass. We're not sure, but I got Jacob Prozik. So I've got two savvy veterans, Kyle Welcher, Jacob Prozik. I don't really know when you become a veteran, but Welcher's still young enough in his career, like year 5 or year 6. Maybe in the NBA, you're a veteran because you only have like a 12 to 15-year career and you're already a third of the way through it. In fishing, he's only 10% of the way through it if he does Rick Clunn's journey and fishes 50 years, right? He's only 10% through, so he's still a young gun. But Welcher, Porosnik, bucket A and B. I'm going with my AOY pick in bucket C as we move over there. A guy that I've picked for AOY in the past, but with the split schedule, I really think that he is competent on any style of fishing you could put him on. You could put him on a lake blindfolded and he's going to catch him for the most part. But with this um, forward facing sonar in play, and we really hadn't seen him jump up to have a chance to win an event in the last couple events. And that's kind of every few events he does. That's Patrick Walters. Patrick Walters, my pick here in Rapala Fantasy Fishing for bucket C. Was doing okay at Guntersville and then missed the cut um, to fish day 3. So he's bucket C is partly guys who made the cut, partly guys who missed the cut. So that's why they're mixed together. I've got Patrick Walters. 15% of the people chose him in this bucket. He's only behind Easton Fothergill and Chris Johnston, but I like Walters, spotted bass, largemouth, kind of a Lake Martin vibe. I mean, a Lake Hartwell vibe, and I think that he'll play that game plan well.
I dig it. I'm also going higher percentage. I'm going higher percentage than you're going. I'm going Easton Fothergill. I know I picked him last week. I'm going with him again. Just think that you look at um, obviously his efficiency with forward-facing sonar is one of the absolute best with it. Um, Kind of the same way you described Prosnik. I could see him just sticking with the spotted bass game and just doing it better than most. For me, I'm looking at this from the standpoint of like I'm okay with taking some calculated risk here and there, but when you're at 27 point whatever percent I said earlier, we gotta make some like fairly safe picks as well because we are not in good shape. Let's just put it that way. So
Hey, I'm leaving the
going,
dock in 99th, and I can see the bottom more than I can see the top. We're just trying to. I'm not afraid of the bottom anymore. I've already seen it. We can go up to the top now.
but yeah, I'm going East and Fothergill. And sticking with the same theme, again, taking another really safe pick here in bucket C. I like a lot of guys in that bucket to do well, but I'm going Tucker Smith. I could
In
not,
bucket D.
or bucket D.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm sorry. I
no,
said
you're
C.
fine. I was just
Bucket
making
D.
sure.
Yep, bucket D. Um, I just don't see him having two bad ones in a row. Like I didn't see him doing bad at like Guntersville at all. I didn't see that even being like a remote possibility, to be honest. But um, I even more so now that we have forward facing sonar back in the fold. Not that I mean, obviously he proved this fall that he doesn't need it at like Guntersville. Tournament just didn't work out for him there, for the opener. But I definitely like him in bucket D. 27.3, no, 23.7, got it backwards. Player percentage in the bucket, that's really high, but that's the highest, I believe, of anybody in the bucket. But um, I think Tucker's going to turn around and have a good event.
Yeah, and to explain the percentages to people, if you haven't gotten an answer or you don't know and you just always wondered, it's the same thing as fantasy football when it says like you click a player and it says 57% are starting him. That means, everybody or ownership and then start rate, whatever. For this, it's pick percentage. It doesn't affect how many points they get. But when you see 30% of the player base or 50% just for example, for bucket A with Trey McKinney, 50% of the people who set their lineups have picked Trey McKinney, then if you want to go with the flow of what everyone's doing, you're trying to just match what the other people are doing. If you're at the top of the leaderboard and you want to just go with the flow, most of the people are going to do this. If it doesn't work out, cool. It doesn't hurt you because they're going to get hurt too. You can do that. But if you have to make up points, you maybe have to go against the grain when there's such a large contingent pick someone different. If that guy finishes 8th and the high percentage guy finishes 20th, you've now gained 12 points or 12 positions on over half of the player base. And so that's a value metric that you can do. So in bucket D, I didn't go high percentage, but I just wanted to clarify that since Kyle did with Tucker Smith. I think a dude who's gotta he started off strong in his rookie year, missed the classic, had an okay season last year, but really no high moments. I expect a high moment this week, and that's Robert G. I think shaking a minnow, big time thing he likes to do. I think he leaned into it a little bit more because of the heat that people were getting for just being good at it. I think he leaned into that persona. I think he'll be A-OK this week in Martin. I think he's going to catch him. Um, almost he might catch nothing but spotted bass. I could just see him balancing that very well. And so Rob G is my bounce back pick, bucket D. He's got to have a good one, turn it around, and he will do that before we head to Knoxville for the Classic. He's not in it, but he's one that's going to be quite busy during Classic week for other reasons as the local host guy, and I think he's going to equalize his tough start at Guntersville with an equally good one at Martin.
I like it. Who you got in bucket E?
Bucket E, I am going Justin Hamner. I'm kind of keeping it in the house. I expect Patrick Walters and I expect Justin Hamner, both of them stylistically and uncharacteristically having bad tournaments at Guntersville for their standards. I expect a big comeback from Justin Hamner. Jerk baiting, scoping. He's not really a minnow scoper. He is a power fishing scoper, and I could see him really finding a jerk bait bite um, to his liking. Shallow rocky points, things like that. Um, Give me Justin Hamner in bucket E, and he is a high percentage pick in that one, 25.9%, only second to Jordan Lee and just ahead of Emil Wagner.
Well, you already said my pick. Emil Wagner is where I'm going. Obviously had a tough event. Everybody in Bucket E, that's just kind of the nature of it based on the first event of the season. Had a tough event at Lake Guntersville. Definitely think that's going to leave a sour taste in Emil Wagner's mouth, and he's going to turn it around. Obviously, a spotted bass expert, Lake Lanier, that general region of the country, always going to be a player, but I would firmly expect Emil Wagner to turn it around. 17% player percentage, still pretty high. So for me, it's like two really low player percentage. That's where I'm going to take the risk, and then a few that I are higher player percentage, but I also just think are going to have great events. So I feel like those are more of the safe bets in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I got almost 15%, and then I got zero point 0.6, then I got 15%, then I got 1.9, and then I got 25%, 26%. So
Yeah,
yeah,
solid
we got a
mix.
little you know, disbursement. I don't even know if that's a word. By this point, I'm so tired.
Close
But
enough.
I like
Sure.
we did 4 days alive, and I coached like 3 basketball games, and I was like 11 o'clock at night and waking up for live. I'm tired. But we're gonna roll into Blake Martin. Hey, okay. There's our picks. So my buckets, like I said, A through E: Kyle Welcher, Jacob Porosnik, Patrick Walters, Robert G, and Justin Hamner. I've got 52 pounds, 10 ounces is what my winning weight roughly is for 4 days, in my opinion.
You said 52-10.
52-10.
I actually had 52-2.
Let's
So
go.
very close. Very, very
They're
close.
gonna catch 82 pounds. No.
Yeah, dude. I hope, but wouldn't count on it. Definitely going to be a lower weight tournament, but again, still one that's going to be super compelling to watch.
Oh, they all are. Sabine, Winyah Bay, all those tight weight tournaments that are low weights, relatively low weights. We've got to remember there's another, I mean, I guess we're just freaking moving everybody out of town. Um we got to remember before the split and before forward facing sonar, there were plenty of events in the mid 50s to mid 70s. But all of a sudden, we just think it takes 20 pounds a day to win every tournament. It doesn't do that. And so I'm okay with it. I like the ones where 10th place is one bite away from getting back in the game too.
I
It
agree.
doesn't need to be an 8 pounder. Um, give me your did you give me your five or just the winning weight?
I didn't give
Give
you
me
my
yeah, give me
five
your five real quick.
consecutively, but I went Dakota Ebear in bucket A, bucket B, Bryant Smith, bucket C, Easton Fothergill, bucket D, Tucker Smith, and bucket E, Emil Wagner.
Awesome. Let's go TH Marine Pick'em. We're
TH
about
Marine Pick'em. Thought we
we're
were going to
about
go to Drain the Lake there, so we're going Pick'em, and I'm going to make my picks as we go through this because I haven't even bothered making them yet. So I
we
might just
got
go against you on every single one just because.
scroll all the way down and tell me how many you got out of seven the first week.
Not many, three.
Three. Okay, I got four.
Make the matchups, and I can't even get them right myself.
Well,
Pretty bad.
there were some twists and turns. So we've got seven matchups for TH Marine Pick'em. It is very difficult to get all seven matchups correct, and you're just picking head to head who's going to win and who's going to be the highest finisher out of these two. First matchup: David Gaston, Will Davis Jr. Who you got, Kyle? Can't copy me. I already picked him, so
I'm going Will Davis Jr. in that one, the
we
Silicaca
agree.
battle, if you
We
will.
agree. Down the road derby. Will Davis Jr. for both of us in matchup one. Matchup two, the Bethel beatdown. You got like five options in the least you could do that with,
Yeah,
but
bunch,
it is
bunch.
Tristan McCormick and John Garrett as we roll into Lake Martin.
I'm going John Garrett. So I think that obviously started off well there at like Guntersville. Tristan McCormick dealing with a bit of an injury on
He's
his
all
hand.
drugged up now. That's more incentive to pick him. He's not gonna feel nothing.
So I'm going John Garrett, but I think that one's really compelling because I genuinely think it could go either way.
I've actually got Tristan McCormick in that one. So I John Garrett helped me out big time last week, and Tristan won the matchup against Aaron Jagfeld. So screw you, Kyle Jesse. I was correct on that. But Tristan, John Garrett, I'll go Tristan. Um, that's all that needs to be said. We go to matchup three, War Eagle, Tiger Tussle, whatever. Sam Hangy versus Logan Parks.
I said Sam Hangy was going to be um, this event was going to be his best of the season. So if I'm going to stick with that, I'm going to say Sam Hangy, but I also think Logan Parks will catch him as well
Well, you
because
gotta go ahead.
Logan Parks, Logan Parks also, you know, went to school at Auburn, but also still lives there. You have to imagine has about as much experience as any of the younger guys in the field, especially, when you take out of the equation Russ Lane and Steve Kennedy and some of the guys we'll get to. But I'm going to go Sam Hangy here.
I'm going Logan Parks. I said Sam Hangy's best finish of the season was going to be Guntersville, and I hope not, because if so, he's going to have a lot of low finishes. Because I think he finished 96th, so he's got five spots to drop if Guntersville's gonna be his best finish. So hopefully not for Sam. But I don't know how to pick him. So Sam let me down week one. I'm picking Logan Parks just out of spite. Um, Sweet Home Alabama, Russ Lane, Steve Kennedy. You know my rule, hard and fast. I don't pick Steve Kennedy no matter what fantasy game it is. I'm picking Russ Lane.
I'm going Russ Lane as well.
I love you, Steve. I just can't trust you, right? He's the crazy uncle. Like him hanging around, don't know what he's gonna do, so you just got to steer clear. Um, Greg Hackney or Tyler Rivette, two Cajun fellas coming over to Lake Martin. Greg Hackney talking about last week. It was the coldest conditions he's seen water temp wise and fishing, and was still so impressed with the weights that they pumped out. He was able to slide into that cut and I think finished in the 30s, maybe maybe just dipping into the 40 mark, but I think it was 30s. So I think he's going to continue it on and beat out Tyler Rivette. So I've got Greg Hackney in the Mardi Gras matchup.
Likewise, I have
Is it
Greg
Mardi
Hack.
Gras this week or something? Is that why you did that?
It's somewhere adjacent to now. I think it was last week, this week. I'm really not sure, but it was like within the last.
I think it's got to be this week because we haven't had some kind of parade. And last year, our TD, our technical expert Howard Downs, had like a drum line come through the studio while we were live. So during Mardi
Mardi
Gras.
Gras is, I mean, according to Google, says February 17th, 2026.
Okay.
So I think this upcoming weekend
So next Tuesday.
should be the deal. Yeah.
Um,
Ink
did you
cakes
say
for
Hackney
everyone.
as well?
I did.
Yeah. We equal. Did you pick Russ Lane? I didn't even listen. Once I said no, Steve, sorry.
I did. I picked
Okay.
Russ Lane as well.
Okay. Cody Meyer versus Taku Ito.
I think this one's really tough, but I'm going Taku.
Oh, I'm going Cody Meyer. I really
Okay.
think this is a good setup for him. He did well in that open in the fall, but like you picked Bryant Smith, same logic for me with Cody Meyer.
I dig it.
And then first and second from Guntersville, Blaylock or Cherry. Basically, depending, you're trying to pick who's going to be higher in AOY after this event because they just flip flop and somebody will pass each other with being 1 point apart. And I've got Stetson beating out Hank this week.
I'm going Stetson as well, but the more I think about it, like you could justify either of those guys because there's qualities of Martin that really fit in Hank Cherry's style with
Lake
Norman
Norman,
yeah,
absolutely.
Norman comparisons. I definitely see him catching them, but you could also say the same thing with Stetson and Lake Hamilton, like having similarities, boat docks, similar structures in a lot of ways. I might change my matchup on that. Dude, I don't know. I'm going Stetson. I'm going Stetson for now, but if I change that one, I wouldn't be surprised because I think Hank will catch him there as well.
Didn't you change it from Matt Robertson to Buddy Gross at Guntersville?
Uh, Unfortunately for me, I did. I did.
Okay.
I
So our
I
matchup.
still thought Matt was going to catch him, which is why I suggested it just basically from the jump. Um, but I don't know. Literally when we were sitting there doing truck and boat photos, when Buddy Gross drove by, I was like, Buddy Gross is going to catch him, and he did on day two, but
Yeah,
not on day one.
he didn't catch a thing
Not
on day
on day
one.
one.
So we match with Will Davis over David Gaston. We disagree with Tristan McCormick, John Garrett. We disagree with Sam Hangy, Logan Parks. We agree with Russ Lane, Steve Kennedy, and Greg Hackney, Tyler Rivette. We disagree, Cody Meyer, Taku Ito. And we currently agree with Stetson Blaylock, Hank Cherry, but we could be switching. So, um, 10-4. Quickly, because I got to pick up my daughter in just a few minutes. Let's go to Falcon Rods Drain the Lake. Kyle, unlike past years, I have not mapped out the whole season. I did 8 anglers last week, and I picked 8 anglers this week, and I have not scheduled out the rest of the year. I'm trying to go event by event, see if it's different. I'm at 69%. I think I'm just an idiot, and I need to go back to what I normally do, but we'll see this week. So, Falcon Rods Drain the Lake. I'm going to give you my first four, and those first four will be anglers that we've already talked about in some form or fashion so far already, and that is Trey McKinney, Jacob Poroznik, Taku Ito, and Russ Lane on my Drain the Lake team for this event. Trey McKinney, Jacob Poroznik, Taku Ito, and Russ Lane are my first four.
So if I was going to do it based on the same logic, the guys we've already mentioned, it's going to be a bunch of them. But I'll go first for Russ Lane, Sam Hangy, Will Davis Jr., and Shane LaHue.
Okay. Well, I've got in my next four, I've got Shane LaHue, Austin Felix, Matt Airy, and Fisher Anaya. Shane LaHue, Austin Felix, Matt Airy, Fisher Anaya.
My final four are going to be Cody Meyer, Logan Parks, Alex Redwine, and Bryant Smith.
So overall, just to touch on a couple, Felix loves Lake Lanier. He may be from North and smallmouth country, but loves Hartwell, loves Lanier. I think that bodes well for him here. LaHue and Airy are my Lake Norman guys when it comes to. I know Hank Cherry is as well, but you can't. I'm saving Hank Cherry for some other stuff. Just mentally, I haven't mapped it out, but you got the Pascatank, Murray, and Santee. I'm saving some just mentally. But Airy and LeHue, I think that they have good ones this week. This is when the winter trail at Norman is doing their deal, and these boys are hard to beat at times. And then I said, I felt really bad. Day one, I said Fisher Anaya, or in the podcast, he might be Guntersville's home lake, but I bet you he finishes higher at Martin. And then he was like, caught a 3 pounder and a 6 pounder in the first 20 minutes. I was like, man, I'm an idiot. He missed the cut and finished like 80th place. So I'm
I almost
I'm not
texted you
excited
too.
that he did that, but I think it's playing out exactly like I thought. I think he's gonna have a freaking good one this week.
I almost texted you as well whenever he went and caught him early on day one because I was like, ha, you were so wrong, dummy. And
You got
ended
to
up
give it
I
two
was wrong.
days. You got to give it 2 days. Um, and then yeah, I've talked about everybody else to some extent. So I like that lineup. I really feel good about this. I know I always feel good about my teams, but when you've got lakes that you know well or lakes that really act like lakes you know well, um, Martin is like a Hamilton, it's like a Hartwell, it's like a Norman, and those are lakes that like Ronnie Moore, would do well on. I just understand them better. And so I
Baloney.
feel
You'd zero, double zero.
I'd probably no, I mean, in the cold last week, I said off camera to Davey, I was like, buddy, I could be on the best spot on the lake and I would probably suck because I hate fishing in the cold. My fingers don't function. I hate it. Anyways, Lake Martin's gonna be great. I love tight weight fishing, low weight fishing. I love spotted bass. I can't wait to see how the top 10. I normally ask him every day, how many largemouth have you weighed in? How many spotted bass have you weighed in? We'll kind of see the discrepancies and we'll see who's got maybe someone's At that point, 10 largemouth, 5 spotted bass. Some guys will be 10 spotted bass, 5 largemouth. Some will be all one, all the other. We'll see how it goes. Some 50-50, and we'll keep an eye on it. But the Lippert Bassmaster Elite at Lake Martin takes off this week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We'll have coverage on Fox Sports 1. We had a live stream going on YouTube of the live stream cameras, unmanned cameras. We had some cameras fly off boats, and so sorry we couldn't bring you more, but they were kind of out in the lake, Kyle. So we're coming prepared to do this experiment part two and try to bring more coverage to the fan um, in the way that I would say B.A.S.S is always trying to do, but we're in a season of navigating relationships with anglers, appreciating the efforts they put in, still having rules in place media wise that we needed to take care of to help our partnerships out elsewhere, and still accomplish things with the anglers. So I'd say first event was pretty successful, and second event going to get even more ironed out, and throughout the season it'll be better and better. Not sure who we're covering yet on camera, waiting for the fan vote as well, but the early fan vote has Mark Menendez as the highest picked person. Menendez has a BASS win at Lake Martin long time ago and has done really well at this lake. So we'll see how he does. With everyone having the full capabilities of technology as well. But this is kind of turning into a winding tournament, right? Like it's cranking, um, maybe some spinner baiting, some jerk baiting, and we'll see some of the forward facing techniques come into play too. But Kyle, it's been fun. You got anything for Martin before we go on?
I do not. I'm just excited to get it kicked off. I'll be honest. I'm that Lake Guntersville tournament had me fired up. I'm getting as much work done as I can today because I'd like to go fishing on Wednesday myself. So very excited about the rest of the season. Should be a really fun event at Lake Martin. Head to bassmasterfantasy.com. We've already got a lot of the pundit picks out there and pundit articles. A lot going on bassmaster.com. Definitely go check it all out. Gonna have some really good stuff and looking forward to it.
Boom. See you, Kyle. Great job at Guntersville, and we will have another great one at Martin.